and welcome to a 2005 Cadillac CTS alternator removal with a 3.6 liter engine. First thing you want to do is remove your battery cable, at least the negative, shove it down here. And you got no problems when you're messing with the alternator electrical wiring. From the top of the car, because I knew I was coming out this way with the alternator, I unplugged the ECU harness, both these cables off the ECU. Then one off of this computer, I don't know what it is, on the side of the fuse box, but I pulled that off for room anyway. But first thing you want to definitely do is take off your battery cable, put your car up in the air, jack it up from the pinch weld, right here, pinch weld, and then put a jack underneath your subframe rail here, your body frame rail, and remove the plastic from the inside of the wheel well. Little quick disclaimer here, I am by no means a certified mechanic, just helping public out on what they have to do if they want to change it themselves. But in general, I kind of know what I'm doing. This is Stealth Automotive in Youngstown that we are working with here. Now, once you get the plastic off, and you can get to the bottom two bolts of the alternator. Here, let me get under here. There's one bolt here for the alternator, one bolt here for the alternator, and then back here there's a coolant pipe bolt that is just nice to unbolt it and get out of the way. That's a 13. These two are 15 millimeter bolts. Actually, for the 13s, you can use a 1/2 inch on this particular engine, a little tighter. But other than that, you get to the back of the alternator here. From your head is in the wheel well, right by the cat here, and you can look to the back of the alternator. There's the 10 millimeter main battery connection for the alternator. And up top, there's a electrical connection. From the back there, you can get that other 15 millimeter bolt out. It's a little easy to go through if you go through the back end. But we come up here through this way. I got to the electrical connection for the alternator down through this portion. And the plug is only a squeeze, 2-prong connection on the alternator. You squeeze that right here and you pull it off. Comes off pretty easy. So once you got the two connections off the back of the alternator, and like I said, the ECU plugs are out of the way, this plug's out of the way. The alternator, there's one bolt here on top, one 15 millimeter, and I already showed you the two on the bottom, and that coolant pipe bolt, which is a 1/2 inch bolt. Pull those out and you'll actually be able to pull the alternator through here. You don't have to remove your fans, you don't have to remove subframe bolts and lift the engine up. Once you actually pull your alternator out through here, which it takes a little jiggling back and forth here, you have to make sure that one, I guess you would call it a bulkhead on the alternator where the bolt goes through. You have to come right through this ABS box, the two brake lines right there. And then once you do, you can pull it straight up and out. Pretty easy, actually. I mean, for a normal mechanic, it would just take them an hour to do this. For somebody who's never done it before, it'd probably take them 3 hours. But this is how when you're putting the alternator back in, you want to orientate it The plug is a little bit on the left. This is up, this is down. This is the one you have to make sure goes in between the two brake lines on the ABS. So like as you take it out, make sure you watch where you're coming out of, because when you put it back in, you have to make sure this clears the ABS box. So you just kind of feed your alternator down, you know, feed it down, make sure everything's out of the way, ground wire for the ECU, and then it just basically falls right back in there. But you got to make sure this goes in between the two ABS lines down there, the brake lines, and then you can put it up in there again and start with your top bolt. Put your top bolt in, 15 millimeter, put that top bolt in, and then it'll be real easy to get it back together. If there's any other tips I could give you, would be the tools that you need for the process. Not very many. I had a 3/8 ratchet with some extensions, 15 millimeter short. I had a 1/4 inch ratchet right here with a 10 millimeter on it. This is a 1/2 inch for that coolant, 1/2 inch for the coolant pipe that I was talking about. And in general, you might need, you know, a pry bar. I like to use this, and I just put my 3/8 ratchet right in there in case I need some extra torque to get a bolt off. And I did use a 15 millimeter combination wrench to work with the top bolt because of the small amount of room. But once you're done, you put the plastic obviously back in. Tie up your two connections at the back of the alternator. Plug your computer in here. Plug these two computers in here. Plug your battery back in. You should be good. The diagnosis on this particular vehicle was, you know, was it the battery? Was it the alternator? Sometimes they kill themselves. You know, if you have a low battery, it might kill the alternator. Or a bad battery, it might kill the alternator. Or if you have a bad alternator, it might kill the battery. Well, we charged the battery up and then disconnected it, and it did not move over the next couple hours. And it still showed 12.6 volts. You know, with my little electrical tester I got here, just went from positive to from negative to negative, and it showed 13 or 12 some volts. Not right now. I mean, they've been messing with this battery and a bad alternator for a minute, so this battery's probably not holding too much charge like it should. It should be about 12.36, 12.3, somewhere right around there. So once you determine it's not a bad battery, but when you start the car and you test with your voltmeter at those two terminals, everything's plugged in, you start your car. If it doesn't show more than 12 volts, then your alternator most likely is the cause. And being that it's a Cadillac, it's kind of electronically controlled, so you hope that the electronically controlled ECU portion is not the culprit of why your alternator is not being voltage regulated. But on this one, I pretty much assumed, and that's what I just said, I assumed it was the alternator, because when I started it up, I did not get anywhere above 11 volts coming from the battery terminals, because the alternator, that red connection on the back of the alternator goes straight to the battery pretty much, and it should supply the battery with about 13.8 volts when the car's just idling with nothing on. So just trying to help everyone out. This is my first video. I just wanted to be a little more in depth on it, but 2005 Cadillac CTS, don't have to drop the subframe, don't have to remove the radiator fans, don't have, you know, an hour for a regular mechanic, and about maybe 2.5, 3 hours for somebody who's never done this kind of stuff before. So give me some comments, and I hope to make more videos and help you out in the future.